Yo, I've finished episode 15, so I'll give you my thoughts on episodes 6 to 15 in this video. So, wen-li is getting tasked to take Isolorn Fortress, which kind of reminds me of a kind of a Death Star, but without it doesn't have like the super beam, but it has something called Thor's hammer. It's like a super destructive weapon. Um, anyways, we get introduced to uh, Rose and Ritter, or Knights of the Rose. It's a combat unit made of Imperial exiles. They are working under the Alliance now, but they got a shaky reputation. Um, but anyways, um, this next scene shows how well made this show is because it tells a lot of things uh, just by showing a simple everyday scene. Because we see some older, high-ranked military officers um, kind of harassing waitress, and the Rosenritter, one of the Rosenritter guys, he sees this and stands up for them, even though it's to kind of his superiors. And when Lee sees this, so it tells us that when Lee he wants characters like that under him because he takes in the Rosenritter. It tells us about some of the rot within the Alliance military, and we later learn that kind of like two factions, one that really wants war and one that wants peace. Anyways, they managed to capture Isolorn Fortress, which is kind of it's a huge strategic. It's of a huge strategic importance. And and there's some really cool dialogue. The way they talk about, for example, how they will treat people who surrender, people who retreats. For example, they are debating using the alliance after they capture the fortress. They are talking about if they should shoot down the fleeing um, imperial ships, or the whole fleet rather, with Thor's hammer. But I think it's one of the Rosenritter guys that's talking like, no, that's genocide. I really like that discussion in war when, like, even though war is immoral, although maybe sometimes necessary, um, shooting down, fleeing, it's like a conundrum, right? Because they will be your enemy probably later, right? So I think that was handled really well. And later, we learned that one of the imperial fleets that were defending Iserlohn, there's only one survivor, and he's called Oberstein, and it's pretty obvious he's going to be super important. And he seeks out Reinhard von Lohengram and wants to team up with him, be his right hand. And the way he kind of lures himself in is he also hates the current high nobles. Like he hates how corrupt or how rotten the current empire is. And I think the dynamic, or I guess at the time that the dynamic would be that he would be kind of the devil on Reinhardt's shoulder, because I was talking about Kearsarge being the angel, right? So I think that's a very interesting dynamic going forward. Um, After this, we There's the next episode is mostly to show a little bit about the empire's history and how the current emperor came to power, and also like we get an insight into all the the power plays, the court, um, like the court. What's the word I'm looking for? Like the court intrigue in the empire, and I found that super interesting. It's very Game of Thrones like, I feel. Um, yeah, super well done. And while this is going on or we learn about this and things are going on in the empire, we also got the anti-war versus the pro-war factions in the alliance. For example, Jessica, I told you about the widow of Jean, the friend of wen-li that died. She's campaigning for the peace party, and we kind of learn a little bit about the current politics within the alliance, and the um, PKC. I didn't know if I mentioned it by name in my last video, but like the goon squad of, you can't use goon nowadays, but like the paramilitary, the almost SS-ish secret police that's pro-war and is kind of secretly under the arm of the prime minister. They set off a bomb, killing the candidate for the peace party, and it backfires. Jessica takes over, and she, it's a landslide victory. Very cool character progression for Jessica, I feel like, and there's a lot of like personal stuff in this, because it it was pretty obvious that wen-li had an eye for Jessica, even though she was with his friend, and I think Jessica had an eye for him too. Um, Not sure whether she would prefer him or not, but that's not really that interesting to me. I just love the more human side of wen-li, or not human side, but it's kind of detached, but it's very well made, the scenes, because you notice he really has feelings for her and sympathize with her, and he is also a peace guy, right? And he is used by the pro-war party, like they come and meet him and like uh, pretend almost, or set up that it looks like wen-li is endorsing them. And then we get even more insight into the court politics of the empire. Super, super interesting. Absolutely love it. We get the background for Anna Rose, or more information about Anna Rose, Lohengram's elder sister. Uh, and we see that Oberstein is a pretty resourceful guy. As so far in this video, we haven't like the plot hasn't progressed all that much, but I just love how they yeah, I love that it's slow, and it really feels like the peak, or what I loved about the early Game of Thrones, when the plot progressed slowly, mostly through uh, dialogue and character interactions, and that's what I'm getting now. But now we have the the Free Planets Alliance, since they have Isolon Fortress, they wanna launch an offensive because they kind of got a strategic high ground. Wen-li knows that this is a dumb idea, but politics, the politicians, they show they are really, really, really corrupt, and kind of they show the bad side of democracy, you could say, because they're talking about their ratings, like they are losing the people, and how do you win people over? You go to war and you try and win a war, right? It's not that different from real life, but Lowengram gets tasked with the kind of the counter offensive, I guess, and he does Russia versus Napoleon, right? A scorched earth tactic. The provinces or whatever you call it, or the planets that the alliance will get to first, he just completely empties them for resources, stretches the supply line of the alliance, and if you know war, you know that supply lines they're everything in war. And Wen-li kind of knows this, but he doesn't get to decide much. It's like the older, more incompetent officers. But it uses quite a lot of time and showing us how liberation can look like. Because the alliance come and kind of liberate the people, and they're pretty happy with it. They get a lot of goods. But as soon as the supply lines are hit and there aren't any food left and the alliance don't give any more food out, they kind of take it. There's an uproar, people gets killed, and it's just it's show I think it does a great job showing the nuance, that yeah, you can liberate the people and all the issues that can come with that, and kind of parallels to a lot of parallels to like real life politics and war, where like invading to spread democracy, right? And yeah, yeah. So it goes kind of all to hell, and Lowengram and the gang strikes back. That's where I'm at now. Have oh, they have won, and I think in this episode I will watch next. It's kind of the Wen-li's escape. I think the one I watched was like the Battle of Amilzer Star Zone or something. Yeah, can't wait for the next episodes. I haven't watched that much lately, but I binged a lot yesterday, and I just had to talk about it because it's so good. It's just yeah, it reminds me really of what I loved most about Game of Thrones, just in space with the politics, and I think it's even more. It's like if both sides were as interesting as the politics in King's Landing, but it got a more Shakespearean dialogue and drama that makes it better, I think.